whole nother level, but still keep it ghetto. Whole nother level, but still keep it ghetto.
Welcome to episode 16 of The Process of Hip Hop. I'm Brian Joseph, writer, blogger at theprocessofhiphop.com. And as always, it's all about the process. In today's interview segment, I'll be talking to E.Lize. E.Lize is an upcoming MC from Aberdeen, Maryland. So let's get into it. All right, so I'd like to welcome to the process of hip-hop all the way from Aberdeen, Maryland. E.Lize, what's going on?
Nothing much, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, E.Lize, you've been an MC for a little while.
Yeah.
Tell me about your initial interest in hip-hop. When did that happen for you?
I think it developed, more as I think it just kind of developed as I was getting older, because it initially started with more of the older generations of music. I think once I got into the Temptations and all the older music first, I was like 11, 12. But then once I started getting older and meeting people, mainly like relationships I've been in, they put me on to more hip hop stuff. Because I started out, I would say like my introduction to hip hop was like Criss Cross, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Run DMC, and LL Cool J. Those was like the main four I was listening to at the time, and I kind of stayed in a box a little bit. But once I started meeting people, they would put me on like, you should check out this cat, like, or listen to Big L, Redman, whatever. And then it set a spark for me to start, pushing those boundaries and checking out more artists, just seeing who's who and what's what, the overrated, the underrated, whoever,
Tell me about that point in time where you went from studying it to actually thinking about rapping.
It kind of just happened. I never really planned to do it. It was just kind of like I would get on Facebook with like my friends in high school and stuff, and we would just like do little freestyles in the comments and stuff, just fooling around. And then a little high school sweetheart at the time, him and a couple other people was like, you should start rapping or try writing and stuff. So I did. And, at the time, like I said before, straight basura, but they liked it. So, I kept at it for a little bit, but I never took it that far until like years later. But I definitely I just started writing more. It just became a habit, and I had put out a little mixtape and some other stuff that I did. But
was the mixtape, would you say that was your first official, I'll say, moment that you were announcing to the world or to those that knew you that you were a rapper?
Yes, definitely. At least for that time anyway. But it fell off like pretty heavily after that. I even did a joint one with my my ex at the time. That was a different experience too, learning to collab and work with somebody else and learning how they work and stuff like that. It was a very it was an eye opener. But after that, I kind of just fizzled out a bit. I had joined a little camp. I was like first lady or whatever, but we never really did anything. It was just kind of a label, like a name that I attached myself to. But nothing, like I said, nothing really came of it. I would write and do like freestyles, like very sporadically. Like it would just be at random. So it wasn't like people were checking for me, like talking about, like they knew I rapped and stuff, and they, I was cool with people, but I didn't pursue it as heavily as I am now.
What was the point in time where you really said, all right, I've been doing this for a while, I'm really going to push forward with this? What was that? What made you do that?
I will say when I got out of my last relationship and started, I got away from everybody, honestly. I had attached myself to people and different things for so long. I was holding myself back, and I kind of got lost in the sauce. But, my last relationship was an eye opener for me because that's the person that really like kind of helped me hone my skill in rapping. They never told me what to say. They never ghost wrote for me or anything like that. But they definitely gave me pointers as far as like, breath control, flow, and delivery and stuff like that. But I did it the way I wanted to. And I'm also a visual painter. I'm a visual artist. I was a visual artist first. So I have focused on that because I guess I don't know. I don't talk a lot. I'm a pretty reserved person until you really get to know me. So I was cool with, not saying anything and letting the art speak for itself. But I've found that, rapping has become sort of therapeutic for me. So once I put the words down, I can recite, put it out there, and it's just like, okay, that's not on my heart no more. I can move on. But definitely, like, once I realized you don't need anybody to do this, you just do it. Because, when you're first doing something, you got people with similar interests, you get caught up in the whole, yeah, we're going to come up together, we're going to do this together, and, people aren't on the same wavelength. So it just doesn't work out. And, I was just like, you know what? I I really don't need this. You know, all it takes is for me to put one foot forward because the point I had gotten to at that point was because I did it, not because anybody else did. And I'm not saying people aren't instrumental as far as where you get to, but overall, I had to be the one to do it. So,
But and I think that's interesting also because I think for every artist there's a, I don't want to say it's a breaking point, but I think there's a tipping point where you decide that I'm going to have to do this. And I say that with because you can have people that you work with, but it still has to be a conscious decision that you yourself decide to pursue your music
absolutely.
because no one's going to pursue your music like you are.
Right.
And so I feel like with a lot of artists, there's a point in time, and I'll also say that there's a work ethic involved, and I think there has to be a desire to sustain oneself for a long period of time. And I say that because if you look at some of the great MCs in hip hop history, and I'll just say like a Chuck D, and you can even say again, Notorious Big, Dr. Dre as a producer. These are individuals who really, for a long period of time, worked on music kind of, and it wasn't an overnight thing. And I know a lot
It's,
of times that's what people think.
yeah, because it's like, why haven't I heard of this person before? And it's like, that's where the foundation is being laid and the groundwork is being
Mhm.
done. So yes,
Now, let me
definitely.
ask you, no, that's what I'm saying. Wouldn't you say that for yourself, that's been was part of your hip hop journey has been, I'll say there are there's times where you are definitely working on things by yourself and having to push forward by yourself.
Oh yes, this is definitely not for the faint at heart. Like people, I've been seeing that a lot lately because I have a full time job, and once you establish like, okay, I need a job, I gotta get some work, and now you go in every day for these hours, and you doing what somebody else is telling you to, and it's really, there's discipline in that because you have to live and work and do it. But when it comes down to doing it for yourself, it's a whole different thing because all you have is you. You don't have bosses telling you need to come in. If you don't, you're not going to get money, you're not going to eat. So ultimately, it's the self-sufficiency is dire. Like you can't make it if you don't have the discipline to keep it going. Unless, this is your stepping stone into something else. You know, it just really depends. I think I heard a long time ago, and I could be completely off my rocker, but like I heard that like Andre 3000 didn't initially want to pursue music the way he did. It was a stepping stone to get him into acting, you know. But he still put out several albums with Big Boy, before he, just stuck with the features and stuff. But still, like, you got to do some things to get to where you really want to be. And breaking away from the 40-hour work week or more into completely being independent, that's been the biggest struggle for me, I would say.
When you think about I'll just say the art of rap and it being your approach to your music,
Hmm.
do you, when you hear a track, how do you begin formulating lyrics for that track? Do you already have music written down? How do you do that?
Um, I usually have a beat up front. Sometimes what I'll do is like I did today at work. If we got downtime or I got a minute to step away, I might jot down whatever's on my heart, on my mind at the time. Just writing. I don't have any particular set structure or anything, and I might come back to those notes and take out pieces and put them in songs and stuff. But usually, if I'm going to write a particular track, I have the beat first because I feel it's easier to follow the cadence of the beat versus trying to fit something into something it wasn't initially set up for. And I usually think of a title first because I listen to it many times just to see what I feel, what I think about, said instrumental. And then I'm like, okay, I could write about this. So what would I call it? Something simple to the point. And then I think that's when I get to writing. I think everything else becomes easier after that instead of trying to force words because I ramble a lot. So it could easily get off course really quickly for me
Yeah.
unless unless I establish a set subject.
So let's get into your music because you have some videos on YouTube and you also have. I want to talk first about The Arrival.
That's a joint that you have with Chris Rivers. Talk to me about the production and your approach on that one.
Okay. Well, it's funny because I was at the team backpack event in Queens, and this is when I was actually in my last relationship at the time, and my ex had been invited to Cypher, and he invited me out. So I was like, yeah, I'll go. And I had talked to him before. I was like, I want to, there's somebody I want to work with. I want to work with Chris Rivers. And we had talked about people we plan to work with and stuff if we ever got to that point. And just to show love, I drew a picture of him and I posted it like, I want to say a couple days before the event. I don't know what was going on at the time, but for some reason I had like procrastinated. I had planned this out for a while, but ultimately I didn't do it until the last minute. But I did it in 3 days and got everything set up, put it in a frame and everything. Because I was just like, I gotta have everything ready, And so I posted it, and he immediately saw it, and then he posted it, and I told him, what day are you gonna be there? I really want to give you the picture. He was like, yeah, I'll be there this day. So I was like, okay, boom. I think he came on the last day, the third day, and coming down the block, and I look up that he's coming down the block. So we talk for a bit or whatever, and so I guess since I had established that level of respect and stuff, we had talked a little bit during the event, but I didn't want to sweat him too much because everybody gonna be up on him, and he was there to cipher as well. So I was just like, I ain't gonna bother him too much. But it dawned on me, I'm just like, this was an opportunity to establish a working relationship. So I asked him, I was like, how much do you charge for features? And we talked about it a little bit and we exchanged numbers. So I was just like, wow, just me actually like taking that initiative and doing that was a lot for me. So I was just like, yeah, I definitely want to do a track with you and potentially shoot a video. That was August of 2018. So I immediately went to one of my homies that makes beats, and he was like, I was just like, I need to come to the studio. I ain't got the bread right now, but I'll have it for you later. But I'm trying to get this placement. This would be a good opportunity, X, Y, and Z. So I get there, and that was the first beat he played me, actually. I listened to it, and I was just like, whoa. I was just like, this is
Yeah.
heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Mind you, like I said, I wasn't rapping at the time either. So I was just kind of like, wow, you okay?
And the
That's heavy.
video, the video is shot in Staten Island, and
Yeah, I was at every borough, and then
yeah, I
so
mean, but I mean, or I should say, it starts in Staten Island, then it goes to, you're in Brooklyn, you're all over the place.
yeah,
And one of the things that I love about the video is that it is an ode, and I don't know if you meant it like this, E.Lize, but it's almost like it's a shout out. You got the Big L jersey on, you got the Biggie mural in the background.
yeah,
You're rapping with Big Pun's son. I mean, it's an ode to hip hop without you coming out saying it's that. Was that your intention?
absolutely. And I'm glad you picked up on that. I'm glad you picked up on that. Yes, yes, it definitely was. You know, because just to get that beat, I was just like, man. But I don't want to be too hasty in my decision. So I was like, can I hear what else you got? So for like, I say like an hour or two, I went through more beats, but I ultimately went back to that beat. And I sat on it for a little bit because I wasn't ready. I wanted to make sure I was well prepared before I presented it to him. Because I had one verse and I was just like, I'll use this. But then I was just like, it wasn't even crafted. Like I said, it wasn't even crafted for that beat. I was just like, man, forget all that. I'm gonna craft something specifically for this. Like I'm trying to bring the heat. Like let's. So I wrote to it and I had the beat down, and then eventually I went to the studio. I didn't go to the studio till like, I want to say April, maybe April. I don't know, like April of 2019. Between like April and June is when the track got done. No, I hit him up in June about it, and he was like, "Yo, you bodied this." Like he was mad impressed because he had never heard me rap. I didn't rap for him at the show or anything like that. Like I said, I was still kind of like reserved, but I knew I wanted to do it, so I did that. Um, he did the track for me the very next day. We handled the business or whatever. And I was just like, okay, bet. And I didn't see him. I saw him because later on in like August, somebody was hosting a pop-up shop for Big Pun jerseys. So, and he was gonna be there, and I hadn't seen him in a while. I hadn't talked to him in a while. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just take this impromptu trip, go out there. So I went out there, show some love. I bought mad gear. I ended up getting the Big Pun jersey, and Chris' sister Star was there too, selling her glasses. So I bought like the Big Pun goggles too. I mean, I hadn't planned out the video or anything in that regard yet, but I did tell him I wanted to shoot a video. He was with it. So we talked about it, and I was just like, okay. So we didn't shoot the video until like the beginning of November. But I had already knew I wanted to go to every borough. I said I knew that much because I'm like, it's called The Arrival. I'm trying to make my way into New York.
Yes.
You're here, so let's do it that way. I just didn't have set locations at the time, and we went. Well, I had to first find a videographer. I was just like, you know what? Let me reach out to some folks and see what's good. And then I found one that I liked his work the best, so we set it up and everything. That the decisions for the some of the loose ends was tied up like during the shoot. It was kind of last minute. Like I was packing my stuff the night before because I went by myself. It was me, the videographer, and the other, well, I guess videographer slash photographer. So like yeah, the night before I was packing stuff, I was just like, let me rock some gear, and then it just I don't know, it just started clicking. Like I had all this gear, this hip hop gear. I had mad hip hop gear, so I was just like,
No, but it fit the video.
yeah, yeah.
Yo, if you listen, check out. I'm gonna just say right now, check out the E.Lize, The Arrival. It's a dope video. I mean, you as I said, and I now that I know that was your intention, but it really had like almost a hip hop mecca feel. You know, you was back in New York. You're in the five boroughs.
Yeah.
Kind of shouting out without shouting out the different MCs, some of the greats, obviously, Big
Yeah,
L,
I didn't want
Biggie.
to. I definitely didn't want it to be corny in a sense like, yeah, I'm here for hip hop. I'm taking over. I mean,
Yeah.
or like I'm here to change the game because that's not the intent. I'm trying to add to the game. Make my presence known, but know that I'm here. Like I can't forget why I'm here. This is the
hmm
reason. They laid the foundation.
Now, when I heard Pieces,
Mhm.
now, and again, this is just me, I felt it was soulful. It has a soul. It has I'll say a neo soul feel, kind of roots on that roots tip. On again, a little bit on the I'll say kind of that Jay Dilla vibe a little bit. Now,
Right.
was that the intention with Pieces? Like, what was the thought process behind that track?
Um. Well, it was funny because the EP I was working with a particular producer, and I had beats and everything laid out. That was like one of the last tracks I wrote, I think, and I ended up having to change like the overall sound of the EP because some of the tracks fell through. But I actually bought it from a YouTube producer. I was on YouTube listening to beats and stuff, and I came across that one, and it just kind of spoke to me a little bit. And I was just like, this would be a good intro. The whole thing was really about my personal growth, like I said, stepping away from those people that were, I was getting lost in, and also branching out into my own. That's really what the track was about. I didn't really have a set sound in mind. I just wanted it to be, felt and heard. It had to all come together the way I felt it, you know. So, I wrote the song. It just kind of flowed. I was just like, I got to get this out. This is really on my heart right now because I've been, it's been a journey figuring out who I am and what I like. I feel like I've restored the factory settings a bit, as far as my thought. My thoughts. I know now my thoughts are my own and X, Y, and Z, but then I'm still trying to figure out the rest. So I was just like, this is what I'm feeling.
And it felt like a good, when I was listening to it, because I had just listened to The Arrival. Then I turned around and listened to Pieces, and it was like I felt like there was a definite contrast, but it was still very much you.
Right.
But it was a contrast in styles, but it was still it was still you though. It didn't sound like it was a different artist, but I think that's something that every artist, if you're listening to an album, it showed your range.
Right.
I think I felt as an artist, similar to when your minstrel show.
Mm-hmm.
That also very similar to Pieces more so than The Arrival.
Hmm.
Who's the production on that? Was that also the same producer that you worked
No,
with?
that was J.R. Swift. Um, he's a very much upcoming producer himself. He's been doing a lot of work with Griselda and stuff. So shout out to Jr. for that track. He's definitely doing his thing, which I guess that you could say that shows his range too, because like I said, Griselda and the gritty
Yes.
dark beats, and then you have something that's a bit more on the soulful side. So it was dope working with him. I think that's one of the top tracks for me on the EP. I I actually like debate between that one and Pieces. I go back and forth, but it definitely brought out what I was feeling and who I am and stuff like that. So it's good that you heard the range. That's definitely something I want to show people. Like I don't just rap my ass off. I got something to say too for real. The Arrival was like for sport. I always tell people. I mean, granted, I didn't say anything necessarily that connected as far as like something you could feel. It was just it was like lyrical sport for me, like to show you I have bars. Like I can get down and gritty with them too. But with Pieces, that was my growth. That was my growth. I wanted to show that and hopefully have somebody that can relate to that as well.
And again, if you're listening to the show, definitely check out the EP. I know it's on. You got it. You got the video on YouTube. You also got them joints on YouTube, but
Yep.
they're also on SoundCloud and Spotify
Mhm.
as
Yes.
well. Now, what's next for E.Lize though? You got the EP. What's next? We gonna hear an album coming, or what's the plan?
Um. Well, I've been I've been trying to figure that out. I definitely want to put out an album sometime, you know, maybe by the summer or like early fall. Uh, Also, probably there was a couple of other EPs I wanted to put out that show range as well. More on the modern side. I don't know if everybody will, but like they did, they Arrival in Pieces. But like we said, I'm a multifaceted artist. It's not something I feel is I'm not trying to cater to a specific audience. It's just the type of music I want to experiment with and make as far as, with the more modern production and stuff. I guess what they call not trap to a degree. I don't really consider it trap like talking about, but just because of my own content, like the lyrics is always gonna be there, but depending on the track is gonna push it in a different direction. Um, but I've been also hesitant just because people, once people hear you a certain way, that's what they want to keep you in. But since I'm still new, I figured if I did it now, it wouldn't,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be it wouldn't be as rejected as if, I was making music this certain way all this time and I just put out this because I know people would like that sound more or like catering to the young people. I just want to speak my piece in a way in whatever way I choose to. But it's not just that. I have other sounds too that'll probably be more in tune with what people want to hear.
Yeah. What's the best way for people to stay? You got stuff going on, Elize. So what's the best way for people to kind of stay in contact with what you're doing and your next moves?
Honestly, probably Instagram or YouTube. I have social media everywhere. I mean, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't do a lot of talking on there outside of the music. I usually let the music speak. I try to interact with the people sometimes, but I'm kind of lame at that. So I try not to, because I don't want to overdo it, you know, as far as what people are looking for from me. So I would say be on the lookout on Instagram mainly, because that's where you'll find me. Instagram or Facebook.
Well, E.Lize from Aberdeen, Maryland, thank you so much for joining the Process of Hip Hop. Yo, check out the EP. Check out the video. I got a to-do list for anybody that's listening to this show. It's hot. Thank you so much for joining the show. Best of luck to you in the future as well.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Process of Hip Hop. Join us next week for our next episode. The Process of Hip Hop is produced and edited by me, Brian Joseph. Executive produced by Dale Harewood. Music by DJ Big Mike of Realside Records at realsiderecords.com.